Hey YouTube family, this video is going to be all about liquid to powder ratio and acrylic application. First, you're going to need your Viva paper towel, you're going to need acrylic powder, you're going to need a brush, and you're going to need a dabbing dish. These are must-haves before you even consider doing any type of acrylic nails. So I'm going to go ahead and fill my dapping dish up. You never want to work with your monomer on low because that can cause your client's nail to start heating up. Then I'm going to completely saturate my brush. That way when I'm ready to work, my brush is going to be nice and wet. So we're going to be going for a large bead, a medium bead, and then a small bead. So for the large bead, you just want to saturate one tap, medium bead halfway through, and then a small bead you want to take all the liquid out. Whenever you're removing the monomer from your brush, you're removing it from the side that's facing the client. Then you're going to use the opposite side. You're going to go in your powder, you're going to press and bounce, and then you're going to be able to pick up a small bead. So come back in your monomer one more time, saturate your brush, pull all the way through, get that monomer out, then you're going to come, press and bounce. You're going to be able to pick up a small bead. The amount of monomer in your brush is going to determine how much bead you pick up. So if you're going for a small bead, it means you need to remove all the monomer or most of the monomer from your brush. Now we're going to do a medium bead halfway through, come in, press and bounce, and then we're going to be able to pick up a medium bead. So saturate your brush halfway through, press and bounce and come up. You're going to be able to pick up a medium bead. Also, whenever you're working, you want to make sure that you continuously wipe your brush in your paper towel before you go back to your monomer or to continue working. You're supposed to be practicing wiping your brush. Now we're going to be going for a large bead. So we're going to do one tap, come in, press and bounce. Large bead. The more monomer that's in your brush, the more acrylic you're going to pick up, the larger the bead is going to be. So one tap, press and bounce, and then you're going to be able to pick up a large bead. Before you go in your monomer, you should already know what size bead you're going for. That way you will know how much liquid to keep in your brush. When you're working, you want to make sure your room is not too cold because your acrylic will run, and it's not too hot because it will dry fast. This is what happens when I take all the monomer from my brush and try to pick up a large bead. The bead is going to be very dry. A dry bead is a terrible bead. A dry bead can cause lifting. A dry bead doesn't move. But one thing, if you pick up a dry bead and you already place it on the nail, all you need to do is go in your liquid and add more liquid to the powder, and it will start moving again if you move fast. Completely saturate your brush one more time. Tap towards your client, then the opposite side. That's the side you're going to use to pick up your bead. Press and bounce. And also, whenever you pick up your bead should be only at the tip of your brush, not all the way down the bristles or not on the opposite side. It's important for you to keep the acrylic at the tip of the brush because whenever you work, it is going to be so much easier for the acrylic to just flow off the brush instead of having all the acrylic, all over the brush or all the way up to the top. You don't want that. You only need to have the acrylic at the tip. That way, when you place your acrylic on your client's nail and you press, it will flow so much easier. So once again, keep your acrylic at the tip. What you don't want to do is hold your acrylic brush completely flat like that. It's going to be hard to work with or hard to flow off the brush. And you don't want to hold your brush completely straight like that and having acrylic on the opposite side. So make sure you practice coming in at an angle. That way you're going to pick up your acrylic at the tip of your brush. And also bear in mind how far the acrylic goes down the brush, it all depends on the size of the bead. So of course with a bigger bead, it would have been much further down. But I'm just saying, don't have the acrylic all the way down to the silver area. I don't remember what that's called, but don't have the acrylic all the way down there. So like I said, my aim now, I'm going to do a 2-ball method. One right in the middle to the free edge, and then one from the cuticle to the apex area. So I'm going to completely saturate my brush. I'm going for a medium bead. So I'm going to drag halfway through. Then I'm going to come in my powder at an angle. Then I'm going to pick up my bead. If I notice that my bead is a little bit too runny, I'm going to go to my paper towel and drain all the excess. Then I'm going to press and release it, making sure my client finger is tilted downward. If you hold your client's finger straight, the acrylic can flow off to the side, and you don't want that. So to have the best control over your acrylic, make sure you hold it facing down. Make sure you hold the client's finger facing downwards. Whenever you're working, you just want to do very gentle tapping motion and try to blend the back of your first bead as well. That way you don't have a harsh line. Now I'm going for a small bead. I take most of the monomer out the brush. Feeling like I have any excess, I drain that in my paper towel, press and release. Then I'm going to make sure I keep most of this acrylic back in the cuticle area and in the apex area. So I'm just going to give this very light taps, very light feathering, flushing motion, making sure I'm not overworking the acrylic. The acrylic is doing most of the work for you. All you really need to do is guide your acrylic. It's really minimal work. Look how I'm working my acrylic and I'm not overworking it, and everything formed out and took its place. The more you practice your liquid to powder ratio is the more control you will start having over your powder. Hold your clients off to the side, hands off to the side always. Check your apex area to see how it's looking. You never want to have a flat apex because then your client's nail can break easily. If you're going for that specific look, well, that's okay. But as for me, I always make sure that I have enough apex. So now I'm going to be doing a 1-ball method. So completely saturate my brush, tap 1 time, then I'm going to come in, press and bounce, pick up my large bead. Then I'm going to place this bead just above the cuticle area, press and release, and whenever I release it, I kind of pull it to the top a little bit just to make sure that like I'm encouraging the acrylic to flow forward. So I do have that technique as well where I do not lose contact with my powder. Just when I place it down, I kind of stretch it a little bit. I'm going to keep my acrylic, most of it in the back area where the apex is, because I don't want most of that acrylic to flow to the tip of the nail, because I do not want the tip of my nail to be high and then the back being flat. So most of that acrylic you have to keep in the apex area. So whenever you do any type of 1-ball method, the main thing is being able to control your acrylic. You know, when it flows from the cuticle, you need to let it get to the free edge, with also controlling the acrylic in the apex, making sure everything is nice and neat. 1-ball method can be done. You just have to learn how to control the acrylic. So now we're going to be doing a 3-ball method. I already know that I'm going to have a small bead at the tip of my nail. So I'm going to come in, place my small bead right at the tip, and this bead is to build the tip of the nail. So if you're a person who like working with smaller beads, you can go for a 3-ball method, and it also depends on the length of the nail as well. Everything is always depending on the length. So I would say this length is a medium length. So first I have my free edge my free edge bead. So that's going to build my free edge. Everything is looking nice and neat. Then I'm going to have my apex bead that I'm going to place. This is like a medium sized bead. I'm going to place it right in the apex area, and I'm going to make sure that acrylic stays in that area. I'm going to give this a light tapping motion and controlling the acrylic in that area. I'm not trying to have this acrylic flowing all the way to the tip of the nail. So before it does that, I'm going to just start blending it, making sure that part is nice and flush before the acrylic dries, because you don't want to have like harsh lines if you try to blend dry acrylic. Also, whenever you're applying your acrylic, you should always be focusing on your shape as well, trying to keep that shape in place. Now I'm going for a small bead. I'm going to come in, tap, bounce, drain any excess liquid in my paper towel, press and release. This bead is a cuticle bead, so I'm going to keep most of the bead in the cuticle area. So like I said before, guys, just make sure you're not overthinking your work, and practice your liquid to powder ratio, practice how to control your acrylic, and you're going to have everything looking nice and good. Like, all you need, everything takes practice, everything takes time, because I was once where you are. I was once trying to figure out stuff just the same, and I still have stuff that I'm trying to figure out, but I learn as I go along, and I see what I am the weakest. I see what's my weakest point, and I try to work on that. So if you know acrylic application is your weak point, you need to be working on your acrylic application. Like, every time you have a free time, you just need to use that time to work on your acrylic application. I really hope this video helps you out a little bit, and I'm definitely going to be doing a updated video on this. I do love this video, but in the other one, I'm going to try to be more like informative, try to go more in details. I don't know how much more I could go, but I'm going to maybe read the comments. If you guys leave any comments, I'll see what you guys are saying. But practice, practice, practice. Don't forget to like this video. Whenever you're done working, you need to make sure you clean your brush. And how you know your acrylic is dry, you can just use a hand file and tap it. If you hear a clicking sound, it's dry and ready to be filed. Thank you guys so much.